Friday the 13th. I have little bit good news for this Friday the 13th. The mortgage market last week showed the first signs of breaking down in the way that it always looks when there are too many refinances hitting the market at the same time. Uh, Maybe everybody's figured it out, but when we refinance, we extinguish one loan and create a new one, but the new one is at a lower interest rate, and the same people who own the old one may not want anything to do with the new one, so we have to find new buyers. And as the financial markets are overwhelmed with our refinances, they clog. And this week, I've been at this a long time, and I've seen this one only one other time in the very early 1980s when banks were forced away from mortgages because interest rates began to float. The historical data says that mortgage rates all through 1981 were at 18%, and that's not quite true. That's the number that was in the window of the surviving banks, but it was set there to make sure that nobody would borrow. It wasn't really there. Nobody borrowed at 18. And similar things happened this week as the mortgage market really did just shut down. We saw no quotes at all on Thursday. On Wednesday we saw 4.5. Late today, we're taping now at 6 o'clock New York time and the markets are closed. But during the day today, we could take new locks, principally from buyers of houses, just above 3.5. Not anywhere near the lows, but just fine. Speaking of the lows, do not expect them to come back. The functional low in 2012 and 2016, and for about an hour last year, was 3.25, 3 3/8. In those recurrent all-time lows, we refinanced most of the loans in America that had rates above 4.5. Really above, in many cases above 4. Now, since 2016, we've created a hell of a lot more loans that have 4s and need to refinance if we see interest rates below 3.5. And that volume of loans that would like to refinance is the primary reason that we will not go to a level that will refinance them. It's too many people to get through a door at the same time. Now maybe if this COVID-19 virus lasts long enough, we'll gradually work off the refis and go lower. Alternately, if there's enough economic damage done by the virus, then maybe the long recovery period will go lower. But the way everything looks to me at the moment, and I've tried to gather as much news as I can, in particular, the stock market decline compared to the one in 1987, the one after 9/11, the one after Lehman went down in 2008. The stock market is likely to recover fairly quickly, and the decline to date is not likely to do damage to the economy. The recovery in 2008 was long and slow because the banking system was ruined by $7, $8, $9 trillion worth of bad IOUs. We don't have that now. The banking system's in perfectly good shape. The banking system might absorb more mortgages if we had not made new rules quite so tight. So what we're going to depend on is the virus itself. Now, I think everybody in America knows now that we are late to test. The administration was resistant to testing for a variety of reasons, but too bad, missed that boat. Last night, Roche Pharmaceuticals was approved for a new testing kit which will deliver an accurate answer in 3.5 hours. Korea had a really bad hotspot, which is now under control. All of South Korea is under control. I did a little digging. South Korea is about the size of Indiana and has 7 times as many people. It's a very dense place. It's hard to achieve social isolation even if you try. And Korea's done a lot of testing. Korea has tested as many as 20,000 people a day. Here in the United States, we may not have tested that many yet. But what's standing out in the data from China, from South Korea, from Singapore, from Hong Kong, all over Asia, and even from Italy, as soon as the society goes to social distancing, not necessarily the kind of shutdown that was necessary in China, or is necessary in parts of northern Italy, but as soon as we get to social distancing, the rate of infection crests. How do we know the rate if we don't have tests and we don't know how many? My inspired son, who's a pretty good mathematician, has come up with his own research which says that the people ill with the virus, ill enough to want to be hospitalized, are appearing at hospitals at a constant rate of the infected. And even if we don't know how many infected there are, we know how many are turning up at hospitals. And there isn't any reason for more or fewer of those seriously ill to turn up at hospitals. And so we could see the cresting phenomenon taking place. The cresting phenomenon in all of the places that I just ran through seems to be about 4 weeks. We began to socially isolate here in the United States in this last week. And I have some sense of pride that we're doing it on our own. There's no guidance from the federal government. What's left of the White House is an unfortunately low competence group of people. I'll leave that part at that, but nobody told the National Basketball Association to shut down. Nobody told the Augusta National to postpone the Masters for the first time ever. Nobody told but Major League Baseball to delay the opening. This is cascading around us as people just think, oh, that's a good idea. Driving to work here in Boulder, Colorado, 60,000 people drive to work in Boulder every day, a little country town, and by this morning, 8 o'clock this morning, the roads looked like Sunday morning. Every business that has the capacity to work remotely began to do so today. It's an amazing thing to watch. Testing, with any luck, will begin in very large numbers and begin maybe as early as next week. But I think we can look to, by all means, remember to laugh at me, but here we sit, not quite the middle of March. The new infection discoveries in the United States will be distorted by testing, where we'll find all kinds of people who are ill that we didn't know were ill. But cresting in the United States is probably just a few weeks away. So on that note, for a Friday the 13th, have a good weekend.